Hi, Malika Ramsey. Thank you very much for joining us again this week. This week we focus on Guyana's alleged involvement in narco-trafficking. With me is leader of the People's National Congress Reform and leader of the opposition, Brigadier the Honorable David Granger. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Malika.
This conversation indeed comes at an opportune time, as of course there were recent reports and revelations about Guyana's, some are saying alleged involvement. First off, Mr. Granger, yourself and the Partnership for National Unity recently made a statement saying that we must not allow Guyana to become a narco state. Sir, some may argue, especially with recent revelations coming out of New York, some may argue that Guyana is probably already a narco state. Your comments?
I think those charges or those claims and allegations are very close to the truth. Some time ago, even the United States Embassy here in Georgetown calculated that about 20% of the gross domestic product was contributed to by narco-trafficking alone. It may have gone up by now. And there is certainly every indication, once you see local narco-traffickers becoming involved with the Italian mafia, that is a quantum leap into criminality, because it puts Guyana on an international criminal level. We found in this particular instance that 15 months ago, this is nothing new, 15 months ago, cocaine left Guyana stuffed in pineapple, stuffed in frozen fish, went all the way to Malaya. Some of it went to Mozambique. We send cocaine to the Caribbean, we send cocaine to North America, we send cocaine to Ghana. So months ago, people knew Guyana was exporting cocaine hidden in legitimate commodities, and this trafficking has been going on for several years. I would say at least 12 or 15 years. So I would say that we are continuously moving toward becoming a narco state, a state in which the economy is heavily influenced by narcotics, a state in which the government itself, the executive arm of government, is not doing enough to suppress the trade, a state in which narco-traffickers are not being prosecuted. That is why I believe it is correct to say Guyana is becoming a narco state, and APNU wants to stop Guyana from becoming a narco state.
Sir, what are the possible dangers of that happening? You did say this is not now, it's nothing new. What are the possible dangers of Guyana becoming a full-blown narco state?
Well, the dangers are quite clear to see. Number one, narco-trafficking I regard as the mother of all crimes. As long as there's narco-trafficking, there's going to be gun running. As long as there's narco-trafficking, there's going to be money laundering. As long as there's narco-trafficking, there are going to be execution murders. As long as there's narco-trafficking, there's going to be graft and corruption. People will use their narco dollars in order to subvert members of the magistracy, members of the public services, members of the Guyana Revenue Authority. I'm not accusing any individual, but rich narco-traffickers have so much money that they'll be able to buy off public servants who are underpaid and who are greedy. So we can have lots of consequences from narco-trafficking, and the more we move towards becoming a narco state, the more dangerous it is. The governmental structure could be eroded, but in addition to that, the economy itself could be eroded. Now, if you have money laundering or narco-trafficking, a large amount of money gets into the economy, people will be able to undercut or undermine legitimate business. So if Guyana produces beer, for example, and smugglers could bring in cheaper beer from Venezuela or Suriname, it means that the local beer production eventually would decline or collapse. Sometimes a legitimate business, a business which deals with electronics or any other commodity, would have to pay all of its dues and duties and tariffs when it comes into the country. But a money launderer has so much money that he or she can undersell legitimate business, because he is not running a business for profit. He is running a business to launder dirty money. So it can have a deleterious effect on the economy. But the human impact is what we should be most concerned about. Because once there's drug trafficking, there's going to be killing. Once there's drug trafficking, people will try to expand their territory and protect their territory by killing off the rivals. And this is what we saw happening between 2000, 2004 and 10, in which men were armed and sent in to execute other people. This is terrible, terrible.
Sir, the U.S. Department of State's International Narcotics Control Strategy released last year, noting that, of course, we're not going to read the entire thing, but basically saying that Guyana is a transit country for cocaine destined for the United States, Canada, and other parts of the Caribbean. My question really, isn't this enough? I mean, this is coming from the U.S. Department of State. Isn't this enough to register the seriousness of this narco trade where Guyana is concerned, and push the government, more so the Home Affairs Ministry, to do something?
Well, Malaika, if you look back at the last decade, every single year, around about March, the United States State Department publishes this International Narcotics Control Strategy report. But every single year they make almost the identical comment. So it is not enough, because the government seems to be deaf to the international community or blind to the signs of narco-trafficking. In addition to that, the government actually rejects the comments by the United States. In addition to that, the government produced its own National Drug Strategy Master Plan, but did not even implement it. And one of the criticisms made by the United States is that the government has a plan but doesn't implement the plan. So the government knows what to do. And I would think that the PPP Civic Administration deliberately does not implement its own National Drug Strategy Master Plan. In other words, it is permissive, it is tolerant to drug trafficking. It has not arrested a single significant drug trafficker. It always arrests some little courier with a few grams in a pink suitcase or in her girdle or brassiere or something like that. But the people who are shipping cocaine out by the ton, the people who are bringing cocaine into Guyana by the ton, seem to have avoided the government's dragnet.
Sir, having said that, now Home Affairs Minister Clement Rohi basically said after recent revelations that he would love for local enforcement to be a part of dismantling any such groups promoting Guyana becoming a narco state, really. Of course, not in those exact words. Are you saying then that this statement is not necessarily a sincere one from Mr. Rohi?
I normally don't pay much attention to what Mr. Rohi says. I mean, he actually said he was happy to learn of the Guyana cocaine conspiracy. So that doesn't make sense to me. How could you be happy to know there's a car accident to prove that the traffic lights work, So I don't pay much attention to what he has said. I don't believe that we should take any comfort, because it points to a failure on his part, a failure on the part of the Ministry of Home Affairs, a failure on the part of the Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit, which he's responsible for, in enforcing the law. So I think it's a weakness, and he shouldn't exult in this matter at all. He should go back to the drawing board and ensure that a proper National Drug Strategy Master Plan is created. Right now, the plan that we have on the table was promulgated 9 years ago, and it expired 5 years ago, and he's done nothing to bring a plan back onto the table.
Sir, I know as a result of recent revelations, you would have met with the Army Chief of Staff, Brigadier Mark Phillips. Could you say what that meeting was intended to achieve, where this is concerned, this issue of Guyana becoming a narco state is concerned?
I met with the Chief of Staff, with other senior members of the APNU, because we are convinced that after 7.5 years of Mr. Rohi's tenure as Minister of Home Affairs, he does have no intention of introducing and enforcing a serious counter-narcotic strategy. I'm not saying this out of desperation or frustration, but I think we've calmly realized that Mr. Rohi is not serious about the drug war. And we feel that the drug war has to be taken out of the hands of Mr. Rohi, taken out of the hands of the police force, and put into the hands of the defense force. Now, what I mean by that is this. The defense force has the ability to operate aviation. It has the ability to operate Coast Guard or maritime asset. It has the ability to reach out to the hinterland, to patrol our borders. And you want to have an organization which has these abilities. Now, from the time we had troubles in Guyana, around about 12 years ago, President Jagdeo started to speak about, and Mr. Gadrad, who was then the Minister of Home Affairs, started to speak about providing an ear wing to the police force. Well, you don't provide ear wings to police force from scratch. And every time there is a crisis, some official of the government jumps up and promises to provide a relief. And then after a few years, you find this police force has no ear wing, police force has no maritime unit, and we go back to normal. It is my view that, in general, the government does not have any intention of going after narco-traffickers. It is my view that if the resources were provided to the Guyana Defense Force, we would have better results. We need our borders to be put under surveillance. We need our ports to be brought under control. We need to detect the creation of airstrips in the hinterland and elsewhere. We need to have a force that is capable of reaching out throughout the country to arrest drug traffickers. And right now, there's no organization or agency which is performing that role. That is why we decided to go to meet the Chief of Staff, to ask him what help he needs in order to enable him to do this important function. Now, we feel very, very sure that if the Italian mafia were to get a foothold in Guyana, there'll be a lot of violence in this country. So we are acting in the national interest by going to the Chief of Staff.
Sorry, I know we're almost out of time, but are you concerned that you may be criticized of somehow taking something from, if that's the correct way to put it, from the Guyana police force in saying that, you know, they may not be capable of helping us to fight this drug war?
The Guyana police force does not have a strong unit, and we have made appeals before. It is a small section under the CID, and there is no intention of giving it the resources. Every month they go out and burn a few acres of marijuana. Somebody poses with a photograph, and that's the end of it. You can always find marijuana going in Guyana. And every month they go out to do, it's almost like a routine, like a ritual that they perform. But they don't have the capability. Similarly, the Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit, again, they are mostly concerned, in my view, with cocaine leaving the country. But we don't grow coca here. My concern is with cocaine coming into the country. If no cocaine came into the country, there will be no cocaine to export. So we feel that CANU, KANU, has a wrong focus. The focus should be preventing cocaine from coming into the country, rather than simply preventing cocaine from going out of the country. So, whether it's deliberate or not, we feel that the orientation of the police and the police force and the KANU is a wrong orientation, and that we feel that we don't want to get the army involved in a drug fight, but we want the army to be involved in the protection of our borders.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Leader of the People's National Congress Reform and leader of the opposition, Brigadier the Honorable David Granger. This has been our revised edition of the Public Interest, revised 15-minute edition, and of course we were discussing Guyana and its alleged link to the basically narcotics, trafficking in narcotics. I am Malika Ramsey. Thanks for watching and join us again next time.